What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video, and in today's video we're going to be talking about a brand new movie I got to check out just a little bit early, and this film is called Heroes of the Golden Mask. Directed by Sean Patrick O'Reilly and starring people like Ron Perlman, Natasha, Bordizzo, Patton Oswalt, and Christopher Plummer in his final role, Heroes of the Golden Mask is an animated film coming out on June 9th of 2023. Let's get into it. So before we get too far into this, as usual, I'd like to say a big thanks to those very kind folks over at Gravitas Ventures for sending me over another early screener for one of their movies. Always a pleasure to check out one of their movies, whether I enjoy it or do not enjoy it. And today we're talking about Heroes of the Golden Mask, a film coming out on June 9th that I got to check out just a couple of days prior to actually filming this. And so let's get into my thoughts here. But before I get too far into it, I do want to mention that if my video looks a little different here, if my lighting looks a little different, it's because as I was adjusting my ring light just now to film this video, it broke. So I gotta get a new ring light. So my videos might be different for the next few videos, but I still wanted to talk about the movie. So let's get into my thoughts on Heroes of the Golden Mask. When I first got the screener sent to me via email, I was, like, okay, cool, maybe this can be an entertaining watch. I like animated films. I've covered plenty of things like that here on the channel. But based on the images and the poster I saw, there wasn't really anything that was super enticing to me. But I hadn't watched the trailer, and nor had I actually looked at the cast list of this film. And after having seen some articles online about this being the final performance of the late great Christopher Plummer, I figured I definitely need to check this movie out. And I feel like I need to start this off by saying that if you are a Christopher Plummer fan who saw one of those articles, maybe you're a purist of his art and you want to see as many things that he's ever been in, and you just feel like you have to watch this because he was in it, I do want to say that his role in this film is incredibly minuscule. It's incredibly tiny. There isn't an abundance to his character here at all. You could literally remove his character altogether and you really wouldn't lose a bunch here in this movie. And while I did look on IMDb and see that this is officially his final film that's releasing and coming out, the man's given far more dramatic and fantastic performances than anything that he does in this little film, in this very brief role that he has in the movie. The base premise of this film is we open up in ancient China, focusing on a group of superheroes who all wear these golden masks that all have different abilities. After fighting this enemy, one of their members is actually killed, which has them go on a search for the new person to replace them and wear that mask and be a part of this group. So one of our main characters, Lee, played by Natasha Bordizzo, ends up actually going 4,000 years into the future to America and finds this punk kid who is an orphan. His parents passed away many years ago. He doesn't have a family and he's just out there pickpocketing, different things like that. And he ends up getting roped into all this. He's the chosen one, if you will. The mask chooses him, and he gets taken 4,000 years back into the past, into ancient China, to work with this group of superheroes for him himself to become a hero and also help defend their kingdom. And that's the base premise of this film. It's really straightforward. If you're wondering who Christopher Plummer plays, he plays like this mafioso uncle to this main character, Charlie, this kid from America, and he just kind of wants money from the kid pretty much because he helped him at a certain point. And pretty much all I can say about this movie is that it's a very run-of-the-mill, straightforward, animated, generic film. If you grew up like I did in the era where 3D animation was first starting to kind of pop off in theatrical releases, then you no doubt remember that things like Nickelodeon or Disney Channel and many other channels started to incorporate more 3D animated TV shows. And more often than not, even if they were enjoyable, there were still a lot of those shows that never really matched the quality of the various movies that were coming out in theaters. You would have top tier films coming from DreamWorks or Pixar or Disney, and then you'd have a show that was going on at the same time on TV that always had just far lesser animation, far lesser voiceover work, and even though, again, they may have been enjoyable from time to time, they never really matched that quality. A lot of times we even got some movies that would turn into shows and the movie would have the far better animation and different things like that. Now, that's not going to be surprising to most people who have kept up with movies and TV and know how budgets work and all that kind of stuff. But in the case of this movie, the best way I could describe the animation style of this this movie is it's fine, but it's similar to that era where, in comparison to anything that's being put out by any top tier animation studio today, whether it be a Disney, a DreamWorks, Illuminations, or even big anime studios nowadays, this film doesn't really compare or really sit on the same level as a lot of those animated movies or different series that we have in this day and age. There was something about this animation that felt dated. There was a lot about the voiceover work that felt kind of stale to me. And I think the part that took me out of this movie the most is that it's a fairly generic narrative that we've seen before. You know, you have this group of individuals who are in search of the new chosen one, if you will. The device that is the one who kind of tells them who the chosen one is picking somebody that none of them expect can actually be a hero. And by the end, he shows everybody up by actually being a hero, changes his own perspective on things. And it's just a very straightforward message and story that we've seen in things for kids a million times. And just in movies in general, we've seen this premise done so many times. And I guess the question is, does Heroes of the Golden Mask bring something new to that? And the reality is, no, it doesn't. It's got nice messages and some themes that kids can take away from it, but nothing that you can't just find in a far better animated film for kids and families anywhere else from any of the major studios or even some indie studios. And by the end of the movie, I honestly just didn't care about any of the characters, and I didn't care about anything that was happening. It was incredibly generic, incredibly predictable, and there was really nothing for me to latch onto when it came to this. It's a shame because, like I mentioned, there are some bigger names in this movie, but they're never really utilized to do anything exceptional. I honestly would love to know how any of these actors came to this project in and of itself. I don't know if the director just had a deal with all of them, maybe they were friends. I don't know. I'm really surprised that there are such big names in a movie like this, to be completely honest, because this feels like a straight to TV movie that would have come out in the mid 2000s and been forgotten about, if I'm completely and utterly honest. Again, I think that there's going to be some things online that try to push this as Christopher Plummer's final performance. You got to see it. He literally has the most minuscule role, maybe like 2 scenes max, and that's about it. And then the rest of the movie is this fairly generic kids movie that we've seen a million times before. Now, one thing that you guys are probably thinking is, hey, this is a movie, like you said, for kids. So, you know, maybe you're just not the target demographic. And you'd be 100% right. I don't think that I am the target demographic for this film. I know I'm not. But with that said, I am a huge fan of animated films. I'm a huge fan of things that are for kids or families. I still feel like a big kid on the inside, and I love going to see animated films that do make me feel like a big kid. And so in the case of this movie, while, you know, I can definitely tell it's for a younger audience, I am still somebody who can enjoy films like this, and I just don't feel like there's much here that really is exceptional or new or different or inventive. You can find the same story, the same message, the same themes, the same kind of quirky element to it in any other great animated film of the modern day, and I just don't think this is a film that's even really all that worth watching. So I definitely want to hear what you guys have to say. Are you planning on checking out this movie? If you're watching this review long after the film's already been released and that's what brought you here, did you like it? Did you not like it? Leave any and all comments down below. And I have to ask as well, for anybody who's watching this video down the line, are you a Christopher Plummer fan who saw some of those articles and ended up checking out this movie just because you were like, oh man, I'm a purist of his and I need to see his movies, and you were vastly disappointed? Yeah, I definitely want to know if anybody got roped into watching this movie simply on the Christopher Plummer final performance thing. Anyway, a big thanks to you guys for watching, and I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say. Bye-bye.